Peace, peace. You know what it is. It's your man SKYZOO Skyzoo, live out the borough. And this is the NBA Exchange with my man Dexter Henry. You know how you doing it, man? Log on, tap in. Let's get into it.
What's good, everybody? Happy Wednesday to y'all. It is the Wednesday edition of the NBA Exchange. And you know what we do on Wednesdays? You know what time it is. It's always about the NBA with nuance. No hot takes. Maybe we'll slip in a couple of hot takes in this episode, or maybe not, because, you know, that's not what we do. Joining me for the non-hot takes, which we never really do hot takes on the show, but the non-hot take version exclusively for you guys is my man Jarod Hector. You see him on the 7 Footers podcast. You also see him on True Hoop. He joins me now, rocking the bright orange shirt, even though it doesn't feel like that outside where we're seeing some snow after we had a 60-degree day a couple days ago. Yeah, man. You got the summer colors on, though. You're trying to put out the positive vibes.
Listen, I'm putting out the positive vibes. I just got a text being like, oh, I guess you could have your Cabernet tonight. It's snowing. I'm like, yeah, we good. I was wondering, I'm like, man, I may not be able to have this nice bottle of Cabernet. I'm like, we're getting in the warm weather. I don't like to drink Cab when it's getting warm outside. We dropping back into the cold. I'm like, that Cab may get popped open tonight.
You know what's funny? I was thinking the same. I had just copped myself. Other people don't like wine and gonna be like, ugh. I just copped myself a Chilean, trying out a little Chilean Cab that I got the other day. I think tonight might be the night to uncork that. I think so too.
Yeah,
I think it might be the night to uncork that. All right,
might be the night.
That definitely might be the night for that. Before we can get into our lighter, more summer-friendly wines as the weather gets better. Good to see you, man. You gave me an idea to talk about this for this show this week, which I thought was very interesting. We want to look at some of the teams that are likely to make the playoffs, right? And when we say likely, we're looking at the top 4 seeds in each conference. But we talk a lot about what players do good on the show, how they look, how teams look good. But listen, there's no teams that are perfect, Jarod. Every team, they've got some flaws, right? So we are going to go through 8 very likely, I want to say very likely because nobody's clinched yet, playoff teams, and we're going to look at what their flaws are, and we're also going to talk about if they can overcome them. Now, before we get to that, question I have for you, Jarod, is that, okay, where we are in the season, about 17, 18 games to go, is it time for teams? Do they have enough time, I should say? If they've got some flaws, do they have time to correct it, or is it too late?
Yeah, man. It was 17 games to go. It is too late. At this stage of the season, Dexter, you are who you are. Now, some teams may get some key pieces back in players that could solve some problems and make them better and really, improve their fortunes depending on the level of player that's coming back. But, teams that have height issues on the wings, you're not going to grow 7 inches in the next 18 days, right? You're not going to find somebody who's 6'9" all of a sudden to solve your problems. Like, no, unless that person's already on your roster and they're coming back from injury, you are who you are, and this is what you have. And the question now is, whatever this flaw is that you have, can you mask it, right? And can you, and do you have the right luck? Because luck is something that I know we don't like to talk about, but you have to be good and also lucky to win the NBA title. Do you get lucky enough with whoever your opponents are that they're not someone who can exploit whatever it is that's your flaw?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So we're going to go into that. What do you want to start with first here? You want to do a little Eastern Conference or Western Conference? What do you want to? We can go whatever order we want.
Let's go East. Stick in the East.
All right, let's go. Let's stick to the East. Okay, so let's stick at the top of the East. Favorite team of friend of the show, co-host of mine on the ARTL podcast. That would be the Miami Heat. They're currently the top seed in the East right now, but I don't think many people at the beginning of the year, Jarod, said, okay, this late into the season, into March, we'll see Miami at the top of the East. I think a lot of people thought they could be competitive, but maybe they wouldn't be at the top of the East. What are their fatal flaws? What do you think that they have issues with as they head into the postseason, even though they are a top seed?
I mean, Miami is, first of all, they're excellent. Coach Spo is maybe the best coach in the league, in-game tactician. Their player development is second to none. They probably have the best player development in the NBA in terms of what you look with guys like with Gabe Vincent, Max Juice, Omar Yurtseven, Caleb Martin. I mean, all these guys having incredible years that anybody in the NBA could have had, but the Heat have them and they're playing well. All right, that aside, what I worry about with the Heat, Dexter, is in the playoffs, I know they can stop people. I worry about, can they score enough points? And it is particularly in late game situations when all your fancy Duncan Robinson handoffs and back cuts and back screens, when that stuff goes out the window because either A, players are fatigued, the team knows what you're doing and they see it coming, the refs allow more grabbing and holding, so you're not getting those clean, easy runs. Who can break a defense down one-on-one and get a bucket? All right, Jimmy. Cool. That's not really Kyle Lowry's thing, right?
Tyler Hero,
the sixth man of the year for sure. Now you're putting a lot of pressure on him to do that against some of the game's elite defenses. Okay, but they might be, to me, one player short in that regard. And Jimmy's not shooting it well this season. He is not shooting the ball well from the perimeter. I know he doesn't shoot threes. It's not about that. But his perimeter shot making has not been great this year. So that concerns me for the Miami Heat. Their late game offense, when they have to just when the defense is mucked up and it's like, I need someone to just break somebody down and get a bucket. Hero, okay. Jimmy, okay.
Okay, so here's this. You talked about the fact that for a lot of the teams with these flaws, they're not going to get guys that can come and help. And if they can mask it, yes, but you're not going to get those reinforcements there. The Heat, some may say, have got some of the reinforcements with another guy in Victor Oladipo. Looked all right in his first game back the other night, 11 points. Do you think he can be that guy? Does he help that flaw that you're talking about in needing another scorer for them?
So Oladipo hasn't played in like a year, basically, give or take, something like that. All right, until he played earlier this week. Look, I'm not saying he has to get back to all NBA third team level. I mean, shit, if he does that, yeah, they might win the whole thing. Then they got him, they got Tyler, and they got Jimmy. That's three dudes who can get you buckets anytime you need. All right, then I'm good money. We'll have to wait and see. It's one game. Let's see how he looks and how this all progresses. But he could be that guy. So yes, if you're a Miami Heat fan, there's optimism that he could be that guy. They have some size issues. I know that, they got Bam and he's, kind of a do-all everything. Like they're in a way, their version of Draymond, right, on defense. But, when you play in a team like Milwaukee that's going to mash you with Brook and Giannis, 2 7-footers, that's a lot to handle, right? Like, are you going to be able to grab rebounds? Are you going to be able to get paint points? So it'll be interesting to see. Again, it's about matchups. If they avoid a team like Miami or avoid a team like potentially Brooklyn in the first round, because Brooklyn will be in the play-in, they might be fine, right? So it's all matchup dependent. But, again, late game offense is just an area of concern I have for the Heat.
Do you think our friend Brian Fonseca thinks that the Miami Heat have any flaws at all? I do not think that he does.
I mean, if he's being objective and takes off his fan hat, he will. but he will talk himself into, how everyone will play above their skis. The other thing, too, is that Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin and Omar Yurtseven and Max Strus and all these people, they play great in the regular season. I'm not saying they can't play great in the playoffs, but we'll see. In the pressure cooker of the playoffs, are you still hitting at that elite clip, right? We know everyone's shooting percentage and efficiency goes down in the postseason. Everyone, because you don't get to play Orlando and these terrible teams in the playoffs. You only play good defenses. And the further you go, the harder the defenses are, right? So it'll be interesting to see, how those players particularly play out.
It will be interesting to see with the Miami Heat. Next team up for us in the Eastern Conference, the Philadelphia 76ers. Obviously, a lot of drama has gone on with them this year. James Harden now in the mix there in Philly. Ben Simmons out. What do you look at with the Sixers? They've righted some of the wrongs, I guess, in Simmons being out just from a mental standpoint for the team, right? But what do you think are the fatal flaws of the Philadelphia 76ers?
Again, I'll start off with the positives. Anytime you got Joel Embiid and James Harden, who miraculously, those hamstrings look all of a sudden so much better when he's in Philly. He looks amazing. That's neither here nor there. But when you have two all-world offensive players like that, like Embiid and Harden, you can beat anybody, right? Because you ain't stopping them two dudes. Like, they're too good. What I worry about for them is on the defensive end. We know that historically, James Harden plays well in a switching scheme. Well, when you have Joel Embiid on the floor, you don't switch because why would you, right? Like that doesn't suit his game. right? So Doc's going to have some work to do with what they do defensively. And I wonder if in the trade for James Harden, did they give up a little bit of extra shot making in Seth Curry on the perimeter, right? So now we're going to rely on Danny Green, Tyrese Maxey, and Furkan Korkmaz. Korkmaz having a bad year from three. Danny Green's, Danny Green. And Tyrese Maxey, a great young player everybody's excited about, but still a young player, right? This is only year 2 in the league. So, I worry about that. And then, Joel Embiid can't play 48 minutes. And you got the corpse that is DeAndre Jordan as your backup center. Well, there's a reason why he was available, right? Andre Drummond, if nothing else, was a good backup for Embiid this year.
Best backup in the league, for sure. Best backup in the league. Yep.
So that'll be interesting in the non-Embiid minutes.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the non-Embiid minutes with the Sixers. That's probably my biggest area of concern with them, how they're going to fill that. DeAndre Jordan, you've known if you've been watching basketball, not playable in the playoffs. They're going to have to play him, and somebody's going to play him off the floor. It's pretty much simple as that for me. All right, moving along. Milwaukee Bucks, defending champion Milwaukee Bucks. What are their fatal flaws, Jarod Hector? What do you see wrong with them as they head to the playoffs?
I mean, for them, it's really about, defensively, is Brook Lopez going to be what he was last season? He's coming back off. He didn't play all year, right? Back surgery. He has been cleared for contact, and they expect him back, and they have Connaughton also coming back from injury. But that's it for them. It's, can they play the same level of defense they played last season? What made Milwaukee so good in the postseason? Yes, everybody's Giannis had the 50 burger, of course. But guys, again, nuance. What made them so tough to beat was fielding Lopez and Giannis, 2 7-footers. You had 0 people. You couldn't score on them in the paint, and you couldn't grab a rebound because they got everything. No extra shot opportunities and limiting you to 1 shot and no paint points. That's a recipe for winning NBA championships. The only team to push them to 7 games with a chance to eliminate them and win were the Brooklyn Nets. Why? Because they got Kevin Durant. So we don't need paint points because we got that dude. Well, only one team has that dude, right? So for me, if they can do that again and have those 7-footers and control the paint and the glass as they did last year, you ain't going to beat them.
Are you concerned at all about their defense that we've seen through the regular season? Or do you look at this as, look, man, they won the championship. They kind of just waiting for the playoffs to come here, and let's see what happens. They know they can turn it up when they need to in the postseason because they've done it before.
So here's the thing, and you hit the nail on the head. 1, they won the championship last year, so they were definitely in coast mode. 2, Bud is still tinkering and experimenting with different things they're trying on defense, which is why they're doing what they're doing. Listen, that's what the regular season's for. 82 games, that's your lab. Try, experiment, do all the different things. You got data on what works. Come postseason, we know what we're going to do now, right? I'm not concerned about that at all, and they're going to play much freer now. Think about it. Last year was the year they were playing with pressure because when they were down 2-0 to Brooklyn, it was like, it's a wrap. Bud about to get fired. Is Giannis going to, even though he signed the extension, blah, 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 blah. The Drew Holiday thing, almost been here half a year, didn't work, right? All the stuff was coming out. Man, you win a championship, they can play footloose and fancy free now going forward. So they ain't worried.
I agree. I think so. I don't think they're worried at all. Last team we'll talk about in the East, they are likely to make the playoffs. They will be newcomers to the playoffs. They haven't been there in a while. That is Chicago Bulls. They've had a fantastic year. They've also dealt with a lot this year in terms of injuries, COVID, that nature of everything. What's the fatal flaw with the Chicago Bulls?
The Vucevic minutes at center, I think, are really going to hurt them defensively. When they're playing teams that we mentioned, like a Milwaukee, like a Philadelphia, I just don't know that the Vuce minutes help them. And they have, Pat Williams hasn't played all year. What do they go for backup after that, right? It's just not. I worry about that. And, they've been injured, right? And if DeRozan isn't his magnificent self as he's been all season in the clutch in the fourth quarter, number 1 fourth quarter scorer in the league, highest efficiency, all that. Well, I told you at the beginning of the show, everyone's efficiency gets worse in the fourth, in the playoffs, excuse me. If he doesn't do Superman things like he's been doing all regular season, I don't know where they get their offense from, right? Levine's good, of course. Lonzo helps as a ball mover, all that. But I worry about them in terms of because does what they do all regular season translate into the postseason?
Yeah, that's a big concern for me too, along with the interior defense. You mentioned the minutes for Vucevic, them not having a lot of depth at center. They did not address that at the trade deadline, which is your point of what you made. It's not like these guys are coming. There's not a lot of centers on the buyout market, as evidence of the 76ers signing the great DeAndre Jordan, who Jarod loves. There's not that much there. So you wonder how teams with size, a la Milwaukee, Miami, how they're going to maybe exploit that. A lot of this, like you said, depends on matchups that we're going to see in the East. Okay, let's go out West where, I know you're excited because at some point we're going to talk about your guys down in Memphis. We'll talk about them in a bit. Let's start off with the top of the West, the Phoenix Suns, okay? Runners up last year for the NBA title, got to the finals. They have been, let's keep it real, they've been the best team in basketball throughout the regular season, all season long. Nice lead up on number 2 in the West right now. What are the flaws of the Phoenix Suns? I remember we talked earlier in the season about how we thought they could get better. Have they addressed that? Do they still have those same flaws?
They addressed a little bit. I worry about their size on the wing and tertiary shot creation. Now, they picked up Torrey Craig in a trade, so that helps them out on the wings. Another like Jay Crowder, right? Because, Booker and CP3 can get theirs. I'm not worried about that. But what hurt them in that final series against the Bucks? Size, right? Drew Holiday is 6'4", long arms, right? You get him, he starts smothering Chris Paul, right? Chris Middleton's 6'7", 6'8", long arms. You start putting him, he starts smothering Devin Booker, right? And of course, you have Giannis, the 7-foot Swiss Army knife that could roam and cover. It's a lot of length. And the hardest thing to do in this league is score over length. It's just really difficult to do that. And, I mean, I love Chris Paul. The point guard is probably my favorite point guard of the last 30 years. But, he's 6 foot on a good day, right? And so size matters, right? So I worry about their size a little bit when they're playing against those bigger teams and that tertiary shot creator, right? Okay, Book and CP can create. Who else am I counting on to create on their own when the water gets shut off? Mikal Bridges has shown some improvement putting the ball on the ground. Can he do more? They got Campaign, Aaron Holiday, Alfred Payton. Can those 3 guys, between the 3 of them, can they figure out 10 minutes in the postseason, right? Because again, you're going to have to figure out where you're going to get that other piece when they know shut off Book, shut off CP3, right? And Ayton, while he's an improved scorer, he's not an offensive initiator, right? You get him the ball and he finishes, right? So I think that's a concern.
What is there a matchup you look at for them with the Suns where you're like, they're really going to need that tertiary scorer? Where do you see that? Is it if they play the Warriors? Is it if they play, say, your Grizzlies, who we'll get to in a second? Where do you think they really need it in a matchup?
It's interesting. I think with the Warriors, they'll be okay. Although if the Warriors if Iggy's back, that's length and defense, and that's a problem for them. They have Clay. So yeah, the Warriors' length and size on the wing will bother them a bit. No, I think they'll be okay against Memphis. I think they know how to execute, and they have that playoff experience. I mean, really, the team that will really give them problem potentially could be a team like Dallas, and the way they play defense, right? Dorian Finney-Smith and some of those bigger guys out on the wing can really harass and bother them a bit. And if they get to the finals and it is Milwaukee or Miami, it's a lot of defense and size out on that wing that's going to really muck things up for them.
Yeah, you wonder what matchup would be a nightmare for the Suns there or cause them a bit of problems. All right, let's talk about your Grizzly Cubs, man. Let's talk about them. Look, they've been the darlings of the league. They've impressed. Ja Morant's been fantastic. Your boy Triple J, and we're going to get to this in another show. I was thinking about this the other night. Could we start talking about Triple J for Defensive Player of the Year? There has not been enough talk about that. You can argue nobody's impacted their defense more than he has. You're hearing it from me. Jarod is not even saying this. This is me saying this, okay? This is me saying it. I looked the other day and I said, yo, he's not even high up in the odds for this. I looked up some, we'll get to that another time. But my point being in all of this, the Grizzlies have had a fantastic season. Yeah. They're number 2 in the West right now. They probably will finish number 2 in the West. It looks very likely they could, and they're playing hard and clearly going for 50 wins. What are the flaws of the Grizzlies? I think the easy answer for everybody, Jarod, would be youth. they haven't done it before. I think that's an easy answer. But is there more to it that than just saying youth, or is that a little bit lazy when we come talking about the Grizzlies?
Two things I want to say really quick. First off, y'all know I've been on the Memphis Grizzlies way before this year. Been on this train for years. That's number one. Number two, if not defensive player of the year, he needs to make one of the NBA all defensive teams, right? Like that needs to happen. Okay. Yes, youth, of course, is the big one, right? They haven't done it before. And the other big thing is a lot of their offense comes in transition, in deflection, steals, and getting out and racing out in the transition. And I said that before. You're not playing Houston and New Orleans and these Sacramento and these bottom drag teams in the Western Conference. You're playing all good teams who don't turn the ball over. So your half-court offense is going to have to be better. And I do not love their half-court offensive execution. It is too heliocentric. And look, he's amazing. But when every team knows he just wants to get to the paint, I mean, all we got to do is stay home on Desmond Bane, dare everybody else to make jumpers. If they beat us making jumpers, we'll go home. And the Grizzlies have not shown the ability to do that consistently all season. Who is the secondary scorer in the half court that can make buckets consistently? You know, I love Tripp, but Tripp's got to be more consistent in that way. He'll have a 2-week stretch where he's amazing, and then he'll go silent for like 7 days, right? So who's that consistent second piece that can get and create on their own, right? And I think that's the challenge that the Memphis Grizzlies will have.
No, I think you're right about that. I think you hit the nail on the head. And it's got to be Tripp. It's got to be Tripp now or never. This is on him. He's got to be the guy that's that secondary creator in the half-court offense. I agree with everything you said. Those are some of my concerns with the Grizzlies, although I enjoy watching them. They're my favorite team in the league to watch. Why? Because why would I be watching the Knicks? All right, moving right on. The Golden State Warriors started off hot. They've come back down to earth, and they've dealt with a lot of injuries, obviously. Draymond getting Clay acclimated. Although we hear Wiseman supposed to be back on the way, rehabbing with the G League team. So some things. With the Warriors, what are their fatal flaws? A lot of people thought they could win the championship this year. They still have a chance to do that. What are the fatal flaws of the Golden State Warriors?
Interior size. When they play against those big, really good centers, you know, as good as Draymond is, right? A matchup against the Nuggets, Jokic just might carve them up, right? Like, that's just a tough matchup. And then and rebounding in that regard. So I worry about them there. The other piece is, I said how, again, everybody's efficiency gets worse in the postseason. Steph and Clay are both shooting their worst that they've ever shot in their careers this season. Now, worse for them is very good for just about everybody else. But what makes them so difficult is when those two are supernova elite, and they have not been that this year, right? True shooting, effective field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, all down across the board for both of them. The idea that, oh, don't worry, come postseason, they'll just shoot better. Maybe not. Like, maybe this, right? And again, that's what makes them so elite. Steph Curry taking 13, 14 threes a game, shooting it at 42%. Well, taking 14 threes a game now, shooting at 37%. You're like, oh, 5% drop. What's the big deal? No, that is a big deal, right? Like, right? That's, 3 extra points you're not getting now, give or take, right? Or 2-point whatever, like that. In the playoffs, when the margins are thin, that matters. So I worry about them offensively when those two are not at their super elite best, which they have not been.
Yeah, they have not been. And you do worry. Shot making's harder in the playoffs. Will they make more shots? Now we know we've seen them do it. We know they've been great in the playoffs. Can they do it again? They are a little bit older. Age probably a concern there too. Okay, the last team we're going to talk about of this 8 is, I think, a team, if you've watched any of our content, if you know how I feel about them, they have been highly scrutinized for me. It used to be the Clippers. I used to say the Clippers are going to clip, and now you might have to say the Jazz are going to jazz. That is the Utah Jazz right now. They have a lot of problems. I'm not a believer in what they can do in the postseason. I could go on about their flaws, but you tell me, Jarod, what are the flaws of the team that plays in Salt Lake City?
I hate to single out like individual players or like things like that, and coaches, but Quinn Snyder is their fatal flaw. When they are backed into a corner and what they've done is not working, can Quinn make the requisite adjustments? We've seen it for 2 straight postseasons now. The answer is no. Now, Coaches and players can all improve and get better, right? We know that. What was the knock on Bud before they won the championship last year? Bud's so inflexible, blah, 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 blah. He wins now. We don't hear nothing. All right. Now Bud's great. But so can Quinn make different adjustments, right? When his perimeter defenders are getting blown by, as they often do, and it forces Rudy to have to protect the paint and scramble out to the 3-point line, what adjustments does he make, right? To counterbalance that, because they didn't make any adjustments last year. And then, the Donovan Mitchell, how much heliocentrism do we want with Donovan Mitchell versus, Bogdanovich got to get some shots up, right? Conley's got to get some threes. We got to get some different looks for different people, right? How much do we go into that mode where it's all about Donovan Mitchell? How do we balance heliocentrism versus the beautiful offense that they've been playing for the most part?
It's an offense for me that has been beautiful in the regular season. We have not seen that in the playoffs. My biggest issue with them, besides I think what you brought up with Quinn Snyder, is the fact that they're just too slow in the perimeter. They can't guard the perimeter. And then you have the fools, I'll call them fools, we talked about this last year, that end up blaming Rudy Gobert as if there's something that he can do. Well, they're not just good. They're not good enough defensively on the perimeter. We've seen this against teams that have gone smaller against them. We saw this last year with the Clippers. And here's the thing for me with the Jazz. They haven't come up when it counted. They have not come up big when it counted because of these flaws that we've mentioned. And they have lost to teams they should have beat. And that's just simply it. They have not done it. And so until I see him do it, yeah, man, I can't believe it. I think they are, I might say this, of all the teams we talked about, they might be the most flawed to me, that I think is primed for a second round exit. So I don't trust him. Is there another team for you that you think is the most flawed out of all these teams? Because I could see an argument for the Grizzlies. I can see that.
Because they're the youngest,
Yeah.
I think. But the funny thing about the Jazz is they're 7-3 in their last 10, and from a metric standpoint, they're playing well. Like, they're third in the league in adjusted net rating. I mean, they're winning and beating teams they're supposed to beat, right? And they're only 3 games back of the Warriors and 3.5 back of the Grizzlies for the number 2 seed. So the Jazz getting a little run here. Next thing you know, you're like, oh, they're back in the 2 seed, right? I mean, anything can happen. Right? We have 17 games to go, but I think your point is correct. They are classic. We don't believe you. You need more people, right?
Yes,
until they do it, we don't believe them, and that's just the reality of sports, right? You got to prove it.
That is the reality of it. I mean, I'm not saying they can't. I think they have talent to do certain things. I have some concerns, but we got to see them do it and do it in the playoffs. Like, that's what it comes down to. And for me, I'm sure we'll talk about this more in the coming weeks. This is a big postseason for the Jazz.
Huge. If they don't go to the conference finals, I mean, we've already heard rumors that the Donovan Rudy pairing is probably going to be no more, and be looking to angle his way to somewhere else and all that. So,
yeah, if they don't do that, there could be major shakeups in Salt Lake City. We will see. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to give you our NBA picks for the night. Help y'all win some money the same way Jarod and Jenna do every Tuesday night. We'll try to help y'all win some money on this Wednesday night. More of that when we come back on the NBA Exchange. Are you looking for a better way to play player props or daily fantasy sports? Well, look no further than Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the leading over-under daily fantasy game. Why? Because it's so easy to use and win. You can make your picks in under 30 seconds and win up to 10 times your money in one day. Right now, we have a special offer for our viewers and listeners of the NBA Exchange. All you got to do is sign up now and use the promo code NBAEX. Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Yep, that's right. They'll match your first deposit up to $100. So, join the over 150,000 others who found a better way to play and download the Prize Picks app today. That's right. Use that Prize Picks code. Now, some of you out there have used it and signed up already. Get your first deposit matched up to $100, and win yourself some money. That's what we're going to try to help you do here on this Wednesday. Jarod, how did the betting go for you last night? I did not get to watch the betting show. How did you do last night?
We did well. I think game 1, I gave the players a John Morant 2 threes, Desmond Bane 2 threes, Jaren Jackson 2 threes, and Grizzlies win single game parlay. That definitely hit.
Huh.
I think Grizzlies -5.5. They blew them out, so that hit. So I give you winners, and then second game it was easy. Warriors -6.5. I knew that was coming. You might have gotten the part. I don't think Steph got 30 last night, did he?
No, and I had a little bet on him. It's funny, I bet the same exact games that you did, minus that Grizzlies parlay last night, and I took a bet on Steph for over 24.5 points and
I think at 23 or something. Yeah,
22 and then 9 assists, which was asking a lot because he doesn't have a lot of high assist games.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought he might find guys blowing them out. I saw that win coming pretty easily for them.
Yeah.
But you win some, lose some. But I did hit on those games. I did hit with the Warriors.
See,
I did hit with I didn't even listen to the show. We took the same picks.
We give you at least one for every game. You get at least one winner. That's the streak we're on. Every game, I give you one winner.
Listen. More. Some people want it all, but I think that's all you can ask for. All right, tonight's games. What you got? You got 2. I got 2. Who you got in your first game?
Celtics at the Charlotte Hornets. Second night of a back-to-back for the Hornets. Celtics, I believe, are 6.5-point favorites. This is easy money to me. Celtics, I think, win this one comfortably. And I like the under because the Celtics are playing good defense, minus that game against the Nets. But I mean, you got Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, so hard to stop them. And look, the Hornets defense, they too just gave up a 50 burger to Kyrie Irving last night.
Yeah.
So they don't play great defense either. So go with the under there. And if you want to go with a single game parlay, I like Tatum to get 30 plus or 30 points. He's averaging 32 over his last 10. Lonzo Ball, 28 combined with points and assists, and a C's win. I think that will be a nice parlay for you and payout.
That's not a bad one. Tatum's been fantastic. He was really good against the Nets, who couldn't stop him the other day. Okay, my first game is we talked about these two teams earlier. Matchup of two of the top teams in each conference. Not as sexy as you'd want it to be. It's the Suns versus the Heat down in Miami. We know which way Brian Fonseca will be betting on this. I'm inclined to follow him on this. Now, the Suns, no CP3, obviously, no Devin Booker, still out with health and safety protocols. Now,
second night of a back-to-back for Phoenix.
Second night of a back-to-back to Phoenix. Yes, good note on that too. The Suns, I want to know, have been playing tough, okay? Even in these games. Although the Knicks gifted them a win last Friday, we won't talk about that. They have been playing tough here with this. I'm not inclined to, I won't even play around with this line here. I can see the Suns hanging tough here with the Heat, even with the 7.5 points. Where I'm inclined to go is this over-under. We know how good the Heat defense can be. The Suns also play very good defense. I can see this being a low-scoring game. And also, Jarod told you about his concerns with the Miami Heat, and that being that they struggle sometimes with the late-game offense, which I still think is a concern. So that over-under 219.5, bang the under on that. I would absolutely take the under. That's how I bet this game. I'm staying away from the line. Give me the over-under. I'll bang the under on the Suns and the Heat at 219.5. So that's my first game of the night. Jarod, your second game.
Second game, the Atlanta Hawks traveling to Milwaukee to play the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks are 4.5-point favorites. So if you want to just bet that straight out, I like Milwaukee minus 4.5 there. They're kind of getting into a groove right now. Atlanta, I mean, look, they're in that 10 seed, and I guess they can do some things. But I've said this numerous times on this show. I've said it on my other platforms. They started the year with the wrong kind of mojo and energy, and it hasn't helped them. Now, look at the over, because I mentioned the Bucks are experimenting on defense and trying different things. The one thing Atlanta can do is score. Okay, they can put up points, and I think they'll do that in this game. So look at the over there, and again, Bucks minus 4.5. Now, if you want to go single game parlay, Giannis triple-double, Trey at least 3 threes, and the Bucks win. That should give you a nice payout if you want to do a single game parlay.
Giannis triple-double and Trey 3 threes. Okay, I can see that. I'm sure that will give you a nice payout. Okay, my last game of the night that I have really comes down to a team I trust who's done a lot with a little, and the team I just don't trust at all. Denver Nuggets versus the Sacramento Kings. Nuggets are 4.5-point favorites. Look, the Nuggets, man. Jarod. Jokic, man. Your boy Jokic has been taking care of business consistently. That's the thing, folks. Consistently, right? Taking care of business. It is very hard. And Jarod and I, I'm sure we'll get into this in the next 2 to 3 weeks. It is very hard for me to say that he is not the MVP. I'm sorry. Some of these performances, look at who's out there. I'm not trying to be disrespectful and say that it's Jokic and a bunch of dudes, but it's Jokic and a bunch of dudes, right? Outside of Aaron Gordon, it's a bunch of dudes. And this guy's putting up monster numbers. You saw it the other night against the Warriors. He's out here killing. Okay, he killed against the Warriors, who we actually can respect, and they had a lot of guys out there. Well, the Kings, that's kind of like playing the Warriors without all their guys. There's nobody there. The Kings just blew a 20-point lead to the Knicks. The Knicks who haven't been playing good. Now the Knicks have won 2 in a row. What do you think Jokic is going to do to them? Carve them up. Go throw some money on a Jokic triple-double right now. I think that's a nice bet. See what you can get there in terms of value. The Kings have no answer for him. They get anybody in foul trouble down low. Domantas Sabonis, nope, no answer at all whatsoever. Nuggets, this line only being 4.5, I think that's low. I think you jump all over that because it's the Kings. You don't trust the Kings to do anything. But I trust in Jokic. I believe in Jokic. I think we do. We know Jarod does not worship at the house of the king, but he might actually worship at the house of Jokic, although I think he doesn't worship at the house of anybody.
Oh, where'd you go? I do not work. Oh, there you go. I was like, where'd you go?
No, I'm sorry if I dipped out for a second. Yes, I'm back.
I do not worship at the house of any player. No.
Yes,
no.
I knew that. I knew there was no worshiping at the house of any player, except for the Kings. Speaking of worshiping at the house of the Kings, before we get up out of here, how were you impressed by the Kings 56 piece last Saturday night? I believe that was.
No. No. Let me stop playing. Listen. LeBron, what he's doing at his age is remarkable.
Absolutely.
I mean, look, he probably is the greatest player of all time, right? You can split hairs, whether it's him or Jordan or Kareem, whatever. He's in an exclusive club with maybe only 2 other members. That's it. What he's doing is phenomenal. What he's done in his career is phenomenal, and it's still not over. The reality, though, is that the championship winning time with the King looks like that time is over. I just look, and the Lakers got their one. They won. So it was worth it to do all the moves they did. They got it.
Yep.
But honestly, Dexter, this offseason coming up is so critical for them.
Yep.
What do they think they're going to be going forward? And because look, if you look at the Lakers historically, what have they been? Peaks and valleys. That's all it is, right? You get Magic and all that cream in the 80s, title. All those guys retire. Doldrums for the majority of the 90s, right? Nothing. 2000 comes, Shaq and Kobe. Titles, break up. It's just Kobe. Terrible. Win a couple titles, Kobe's done. Terrible. Right? I mean, it's just, and I get it. The Lakers ain't about drafting people and player development. They're not about that. We just get stars. It's like, I mean, but just know, after you win, comes the time in the valley. It's looking like valley time coming up for the Lakers right now.
Valley time out in the valley. Yeah, I'm here for that. You're right about that. It's going to be an interesting offseason for them. But no, LeBron's season has been impressive, particularly from a scoring standpoint. So we will see. That is it for this episode of the NBA Exchange. We will have a lot coming more talking about the playoffs, the playoff race getting tighter, the play-in. There'll be so much to talk about, including what teams are going to do in the offseason. There's a lot of nuanced things to talk about. And you rocked with us today, and you didn't get any hot takes. It's not that bad, man. You can enjoy talking basketball without any crazy hot takes. It can happen.
Yeah, man. Go on Twitter and follow who if you want to get them hot takes. Y'all know who to follow to get all that good outline jazz. But you don't do that here.
You want to get some good reporting, some good analysis, you know where to go. You know what to do. Catch Jarod Hector on True Hoop, bring it in Friday, 11 a.m. Check him on there. Also catch him on the 7 Footers podcast with our homie Jenna Lemoncelli. Every Tuesday night, they do their thing there and have a little betting show before that, which is really good. You catch them here every Wednesday with me on the NBA Exchange. You know how to follow us and continue to support us. We appreciate all that. And be sure, check out that Prize Picks promo code using the code NBAEX. Get your first deposit matched up to $100. He's Jarod Hector. I'm Dexter Henry. Until next time, y'all on the NBA Exchange. Peace.